Hey Brew Crew, welcome back to another episode of Murder Most Brewed. I just wanted to take a moment and say thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for tuning in and downloading. Thank you for just being here. It really means a lot to me. I'm very new at this, and so I have a lot to learn, but it means a lot that you're here listening right now. I have had a couple weeks off. My twins, my youngest children, they just graduated high school, and it has been a very busy time. They had their party and they've got summer jobs, and it's just been a whirlwind of activities. But things are slowing down now. I also have my own full-time job, so I do these podcast episodes in between work, and I also write on Substack, Murder Most Brewed. I do more deep dives into cases. My first passion is writing, and it just gives me a chance to exercise those writing muscles and things like that. So I just wanted to say thank you again. Thank you so much for being here and supporting me. So before we dive into today's dark tale, let's talk coffee. For today's episode, I'm sipping on something bold and strong, an espresso, to fuel me through these twisted cases we're about to unravel. The Zodiac Killer, a mystery that's been haunting us for over 50 years and leaves us with more questions than answers. And just like this espresso, it's sharp, intense, and a little unsettling. So whether you're enjoying a dark roast, a cold brew, or even a hot cup of tea, get comfortable, because this case is not for the faint of heart. Now grab your brew and let's dive into the chilling mystery of the Zodiac Killer. The Zodiac Killer is one of the most infamous serial killers in American history. He was active in Northern California during the late 1960s and early 1970s, but despite multiple investigations and countless suspects over the years, the Zodiac's true identity remains unknown. To this day, he has become a symbol of the unsolved, a reminder of how sometimes justice can evade us forever. But let's rewind to the night of December 20th of 1968, when a couple, Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday, were parked in a remote area near Viejo, California. They were enjoying a peaceful night out. But little did they know their quiet evening would take a terrifying turn. A man approached their car, ordered them to get out, and he shot them both. Betty Lou and David were the first victims confirmed to be targeted by the Zodiac Killer. But the strange thing? The killer didn't immediately run off. He lingered in the area for a moment before walking calmly back to his car, leaving the scene as though nothing had happened. Their murders were only the beginning. Over the next several months, the Zodiac would strike again and again, always leaving behind cryptic messages and taunting police, claiming responsibility for the crimes. His signature move was his letters. He would send them to local newspapers, boasting about his killings, often including details only the police knew, making it clear he was watching and playing a twisted game with law enforcement and the public. Now, what makes the Zodiac Killer so fascinating and horrifying is his constant interaction with the media. He didn't just want to kill, he wanted to be remembered, and he wanted to prove his superiority over law enforcement. One of the most chilling aspects of his reign of terror was his cryptic letters. His first letter, sent in July 1969, contained an unsolved cipher, and it's this cipher that has become one of the most famous and eerie symbols of his crime spree. The Zodiac challenged anyone to decode it, bragging that only he knew the truth of what it meant. He didn't stop there. Throughout his killing spree, he sent more letters, sometimes containing threats, sometimes mocking the police, and even at one point claiming that if his demands weren't met, he would kill again. It was his need for recognition that made his crimes even more unsettling. He didn't want to remain in the shadows. He wanted to control the narrative and flaunt his intelligence. But despite years of investigation and several breakthroughs in cryptography, only a few of his ciphers have ever been solved. The most famous one, known as the 340 cipher, wasn't cracked until 2020, more than 50 years later. That's how far-reaching the mystery of the Zodiac Killer really is. His puzzles remain unsolved, even after all these years. Despite multiple suspects over the years, the Zodiac's true identity has never been confirmed. Law enforcement at the time had little to go on. In fact, the Zodiac often eluded the police, sometimes taunting them directly by including his handwriting samples, cryptograms, and fingerprints in his letters. The investigation into his killings was one of the largest and most complex in history, but as time went on, leads fizzled out, suspects were dismissed, and new ones appeared, until they too proved fruitless. Many people believe the Zodiac is still out there. Some believe he is a well-known figure, possibly someone connected to the police or media, while others think he is just a random, unremarkable man who wanted to live a legacy of fear and confusion. The police were never able to conclusively tie any individual to this case, and no one has ever been arrested for the Zodiac's crimes. And yet, the letters kept coming, the taunts continued, and the public's fascination only grew. Since we've already talked about the Zodiac's first known attack in 1968, Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday, they were the young couple full of hope that were gunned down on the quiet stretch of road. But let's fast forward a few months to July 4th, 1969. So it's a warm summer night in Viejo, California. The fireworks echo in the distance, where Darlene and Michael are parked in a secluded lot at Blue Rock Springs Park. They were just talking, maybe sharing a private moment, when headlights appear behind them. A car pulls in, then leaves. But it comes back. Without warning, a man steps from the vehicle and approaches. Before either of them can react, gunfire erupts. Darlene is shot multiple times. Michael is hit too, but survives. It's chaotic, brutal, and fast. But this time the killer makes contact. Just 40 minutes later, a call comes into the Viejo Police Department. The voice is calm, chilling, and unmistakably proud. The caller claims responsibility for the shooting and for the murders of the previous December. The Zodiac has officially introduced himself. Then in August, 3 letters arrive, one to San Francisco Chronicle, another to San Francisco Examiner, and the third to the Viejo Times Herald. Each one contains part of a cryptogram. The killer demands that they be published, or he promises to kill again, and he does. September 27th in 1969, Lake Berryessa, a peaceful afternoon. College students Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard are relaxing by the lake, unaware that someone is watching them. A man approaches, this time wearing something truly terrifying, a black hood with a clip-on sunglasses over the eye holes, and a symbol drawn on his chest, the same symbol from the letters, a circle with a cross. He claims he's an escaped convict, says he just needs their car and money. But he doesn't leave. He ties them up. Then he stabs them over and over. Cecilia dies from her wounds. Brian survives, but just barely. The killer even leaves a message scrawled on the couple's car door, a kind of signature, a timeline of his crimes, as if this is all just a twisted game to him. And then, October 11th, 1969, in San Francisco, Paul Stein, a 29-year-old cab driver, picks up a passenger in the theater district. The fare gives an address in Parasito Heights, but when they reach the destination, the passenger pulls out a gun and shoots Paul in the head. This time, it's not a couple, not a lover's lane. It's urban, brazen, and dangerous. The killer tears a part of Paul's shirt and disappears into the night, just minutes before the police arrive. Witnesses even catch a glimpse of him walking away. This murder confirms something chilling. The Zodiac has changed his pattern, and no one is safe. By this point, fear is spreading fast. Newspapers are flooded with letters from the killer, riddles, taunts, even threats of schoolyard massacres. He claims he's collecting souls, that each murder brings him closer to some twisted goal. And yet, law enforcement is no closer to catching him. But who was the Zodiac? Who was behind the cryptic symbols, the calm calls, the casual violence? So that's where we're going next, the theories and suspects. So over the years, many names have been floated as possible suspects. Some of the most well-known include Arthur Lee Allen, a convicted child molester who had a history of violent behavior. There was also Richard Gazowski, a journalist who worked for a local paper and had some eerie similarities to the Zodiac's known profile. But despite investigations into these men, and many others, no one has ever been definitively linked to these crimes. Some theories even suggest that the Zodiac may have been a group of individuals rather than a single killer. This would explain the seemingly random nature of the crimes and the difficulty in tracking down one person. Other theories point to the killer's desire to be famous, suggesting that his crimes may have been driven by a twisted need for recognition more than anything else. So there we have it, the chilling case of the Zodiac Killer, a man who played with law enforcement and the public alike, leaving behind a legacy of terror and unanswered questions. Decades have passed, evidence has been re-examined, handwriting scrutinized, DNA tested. New suspects have come and gone, documentaries aired, books published, amateur sleuths drawn into like moths to the flame, and still no definitive answer. The Zodiac didn't just kill, he communicated. He wanted to be known, to be feared, but somehow he slipped through every crack. He left behind a trail of terror, a stack of taunting letters, and a symbol that's now become part of the American true crime folklore. The most chilling part, we don't even know how many victims there truly were. The confirmed ones, the ones linked by letters and evidence, tell one story, but the Zodiac himself claimed many more. Did he lie? Did he stop? Or did he just get better at hiding? What we're left with is a haunting silence, a case that never found its ending, and a question that still echoes all these years later. Who was the Zodiac? The truth is, we may never know his name, but we still know his message. He wanted the world to look over its shoulder, and in many ways, we still are. As we finish our brew and wrap up this haunting tale, I want to thank you for joining me for another episode of Murder Most Brewed. Remember to check out our Zodiac Killer playlist on Spotify for the perfect soundtrack to accompany today's episode. It'll be linked in the show notes. And hey, while you're sipping your coffee, take a moment to let me know your theories. Could the Zodiac Killer still be out there? Drop me a comment on Instagram at Murder Most Brewed. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, stay caffeinated, stay curious, and as always, stay safe out there, because sometimes the truth is scarier than the mystery.